right. Thank you guys. Thanks for joining us today. Welcome, Björn. Today we're going to be chatting about something that's really fascinating and interesting for me, specifically because this is what we're doing, and Björn's been wonderful about setting all of this up. But do you understand the relevance of using webinars in your business? And that's what we're doing today. Please tell us who you are and what we're going to talk about, and let's do it.
Hi, I'm a friend of Kevin Britt's. This is my fourth meeting this month. My name is Björn, everyone, and I'm a company called TNT Marketing and PR, and I'm passionate about helping small businesses grow and succeed in the local community. That's been my phrase for the last 10 years, and it's going to be my phrase to continue, because now more than ever, and I'm sure Janine and Jade got that, now more than ever, we need to be relevant in helping small businesses to really understand how to be relevant in the current space, and more than just to be relevant, how to generate an income. So yeah, that's me.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ben. So guys, just to reiterate for those who are new and joining us, we are here just to add value. And, you know, from my perspective, my business is business by design. And part of what we want to be able to do is empower people like Björn's doing with the marketing, and really give people a way to design their businesses moving forward and getting it out there. So Björn, to kick it off, why do we need to use webinars in our business? Give it to us and tell us why this is a good thing.
I think it's really very, very simple. Despite COVID-19 and despite all that we've had to go through, one of the biggest things right now is that you've got to remain top of mind in your business. And so if people obviously be changing to restrictions as of the first to level 3, so by default people can move around a little bit more. But the biggest thing right now is that you've got to remain top of mind. And the only way you can remain top of mind is in an online world where something looks attractive and appealing that will cause people to want to hear what you have to say. That's obviously, if you know, working on the series that we're talking all month, is have you been remaining relevant? Do you have a voice? Are you consistent in that voice? I had someone got an email recently. She said, look, I'm a lot of things. She's an engineer, she's a doctor, she's an accountant, and she is a professor in some other subject, and she's 35. And I was like, 7 years for a doctor? Like, when did she do? And I must be honest, I remember thinking, there's two ways I could reply here. I was just like, you can't be everything to everyone, because, you know, how do people take you seriously? And like, are you going to want your accountant to operate on you or to help you deliver your first child? Probably not, unless it's an emergency and you're in the bush somewhere and you're thinking, I need you, come here. But, you know, other than that, you really want to be able to remain relevant and top of mind, and make sure by default that you are, whatever it is that you say you're doing, that you create that voice in the community for that subject matter. And in future, when you are going to want to run a special or run a discount promotion or run a course, you've been adding value so that people eventually go, you know what, this person's been adding value for months, for weeks, for years. Yes, I'm interested. And that's why it's really important in terms of using webinars in the current space.
I want you to just also reiterate what's one of the things you just brought up right now is, and it's I've fallen into that same trap where, because you have experience, you've done a lot. There's a lot of us, and I think from a South African entrepreneurial space, we as business owners, you often go and, well, I can do this, and if you don't know how, you learn how, and then we somehow get stuck between starting to tell people about everything we do. And that's not necessarily the best approach or the wisest way to go about it, because it completely creates sort of misalignment. And it's like, so who are you and what do you really do? Talk to us more
100%.
about that, because essentially from, you know, creating a webinar, it really needs to lend itself to the messaging, to lend itself to who you are, what you're doing, and.
Great. So I always say two things. Number one, are you going to listen to someone that sounds like and looks like because it's important to say sounds and it looks like, because that's the projected image, the marketing and the PR, right? That has structure, that has strategy, that has purpose, and that has relevance. Or you just going to randomly listen and ask someone who today is talking about Tupperware, and nothing wrong with Tupperware, but then tomorrow is talking about Herbalife and like top sales, and then the next day they're talking about engineers, and the next day you think, what are you going to talk about? How to like put garden soil into a pot plant? Like, yeah. You know, your relevancy and all the rest, you actually throw out the door. Your credibility goes out the door because people are looking for people that are thought leaders. And even though you might not consider yourself a thought leader, the reality is that someone's watching you. You know, I always say this, I've often said this over the years to different teams that I've trained. You've got to remember that people are watching you 24/7. The minute you have a social media presence, people are watching you. The minute you do not live on an island on your own, someone is watching you. You know, just today on a social media platform, someone messaged me and said, hey, congratulations on your new promotion. And because it was an egg face, I literally went, hi there, thank you, who are you, and how can I help? And they're like, no, I saw on your LinkedIn profile, and eventually, you know, they showed me who they were, and I was like, okay, that's cool. But it just made me realize on a platform that I was totally not expecting someone to say congratulations on a work promotion. I realized again, wow, I actually have to be careful even more so now more than ever in terms of when I'm communicating, how I'm communicating, because this is the thing people are watching. Thus, you need to understand when you are now structuring a webinar and you're creating structure around that, people are watching and learning. And I remember this. You know, people have different opinions on JT Fox, and that's not what I want to discuss. But what I want to discuss about JT Fox is that people watched him. People have watched him grow, succeed, battled, struggled, crashed, succeeded, and. People watched. And I remember I was one of those people who did that. Exactly, Taryn, to have a positive influence, absolutely. So I just remember thinking, as this message happened this morning, I was just thinking back to, I watched JD Fox and stuff that he did, and I thought, well, if he could do it, I could do it. And that's the thing. People relate to people that they can relate to that have same, I don't want to say morals and values because that's a relevant term, but I'd rather say that have the same level of integrity that you operate from, the same message. They will go to someone that they think is a thought leader. And by default, it's important how you then structure what you do, creates future credibility, etc., etc., etc.
So in terms of, I mean, one of the questions that I have here is, how do I know people will sign up for my webinar?
Great. Okay, cool. So I think the first thing that we need to discuss is another elephant in the online digital platform that people don't do. There's too many people that and I encounter this, and I'm going to just be very blunt here, that have this arrogant approach that because they've got 100 followers on Twitter, that they are a celebrity, that they are all of a sudden internationally famous, and therefore they can charge. JT Fox said, and someone else said, and someone else said, and someone else said that you can charge so much money. And I'm going, but who are you? What's your voice? Where have you been? You know, I call it the 10 years overnight success. You know, where people don't realize some artists have been performing and gigging for 10 years before a radio station went, oh, would you like to come onto a radio station? The local one on the internet has got the bad signal. So if you want to make sure that people are going to attend, start from this process very simply. Look to see what you can give away. Thank you. Thanks, Jade. Exactly, Tina Turner. I was actually thinking, I could see the hip movement and I was like, what's her name? Big hair. And I was like, I didn't want to say that, but it's true. Exactly, Tina Turner. This is the thing. Start off, and I relate this to the influencer world, and we spoke about this last week. Before you get to the point that you're invited and you get paid to do campaigns, you'll start off as a blogger. You'll start off where you are promoting content. Same way with your webinar. It's a planning. It is a 6-week planning strategy if you're driving numbers. I know for us, this is not our biggest thing to drive numbers. People attend, however many people attend, that's great. Yes, we'll grow it over time and we'll put some more structure and an end. But start up like the bloggers do, where you go, hey, I'm going to give you some free content. So step number 1. Number 2, make sure is your content relevant. Number three, make sure are you choosing the right time, the right date, the right platform. You know, I had someone say to me the other day, oh no, I don't use Zoom, and we don't need to go into all of their reasonings, but they're like, no, I use platform A and platform B. And I actually said to the lady, sorry, ma'am, what is that? She's like, no, this is an Australian-based program, and if you use this backlink that like it's given to selected government officials, I was like, okay. And that's the problem. Too many people are, I almost want to say it like this, trying to use shortcuts for their 10 years overnight success. You've got to put in your time. So establish your voice, number one. Number two, start promoting other businesses and helping. That's really what you and I are doing. Like and we'll, or maybe I'll give you like leaving the cat out the bag in terms of next month and all those kind of stuff. But start promoting other people. And, you know, that's what we are doing. We're leveraging off each other and having a discussion about different stuff that we can help different people. Yeah. And as time goes on, you build an audience, you build a community. I mean, I just look at, in terms of our webinar, some weeks have been packed to capacity and others are not. And that's okay. A different audience is going to resonate with a different subject matter. And that's life, you know?
You know, I think also from starting this process with you, you know, and it's evolved from doing lunchtime marketing to lunchtime coaching. And I'm also going to have a business coach online from June as well, who's going to specifically talk about business coaching. But really, you know, I think one of the things that I would love to add to having a webinar is, like you're saying, you've got to do the time. You also have to make the effort. You've got to go and start establishing stuff. And I think one of the things that a lot of people, if you recognize other people who are doing success online, what they do have is content, you know. And some of the content I've seen from some of the coaches that I've seen online, some of the content is like, oh my goodness, like why the hell would you put that online? And I was very apprehensive from that perspective. But essentially, the difference between me and that coach is doing it. You know, I think one of the things, and I'll quickly find the quote and share it at the end. But you know, Brené Brown speaks about being in the arena, and essentially that's exactly what we want to do and be. And I think that's also part of putting yourself out and creating a webinar. Even if you have 2 people on the webinar, it's your webinar. And leave people with some really good content, leave them going away there and saying, oh my goodness, you won't believe, I saw this thing the other day and I thought it was so useful. Let me share the link with you. That's essentially what you want to take away from it. So I think it lends itself really well. So what do I say in the webinar and how do I script it? Because I know that, you know, often when it comes to content, people get caught up in the information and they share information how they put information together. And that's not necessarily effective or the best possible way to deliver information for your audience. So you really have to find like a really good balance between how do I put that information together and will this land with my audience? So how do I do that? What advice can you take away from that?
So I'm going to want to address one thing before we talk about what do we put in terms of content. I want to say one thing that I disagree with you on.
Okay.
And the reason why I say I disagree with you is this. So you spoke about this particular coach that was, you said the difference between her and you is that she was in the arena.
Yeah.
And I want to say this. If your content is bad, that is your first step to you highlighting who you are. So you've created a spotlight and then successfully destroying yourself. And I'd rather say, go and relook and do a bit of market research to ask your family and friends to do a webinar with them. I've said this to many people before. I had people say to me last week when they saw that we talked about webinars, someone said to me, oh my gosh, Björn, like, what are you talking about? And I said, webinars. And she was like, oh, thanks, that's brilliant. And she was so nervous and she was so worried. And she said, where do I start? I said, put something together and ask your friends and family to honestly evaluate you. Because, you know, if they're that honest and love and care about you, they'll go, my darling, you are an amazing gynecologist. You're an amazing civil engineer.
Yeah.
Maybe webinars is not your vibe.
But what if your family doesn't like you and they're not supportive?
I said family and friends, Kevin. I did say family and friends. But so, no, I say that on purpose. I know for a fact, and I obviously won't go into details because it wouldn't be applicable. I'm just checking if she's still on here in terms of some of the attendees. Yes, Jade's on here. Jade and I have specifically been, and I'll never forget, on a webinar together. Let's just go with that. And I remember us having a conversation afterwards, which is where I'm going to now, about content. She's laughing. I remember us having a conversation about content, and we both walked away from that webinar with the following, and she can correct me if I'm wrong. We both walked away going, the content wasn't great. The person spoke like this. They continued for an hour. They spoke about the value that they can add to the business. And we both and I were just like, and you need to understand that compared to my personality, Jade, I'm super hyper, and Jade's personality is much more reserved. I mean, Jade who's on this webinar was my life coach for a while, and she's actually a consciousness coach, and that's a simple conversation, and she's phenomenal in what she does. And the fact that Jade would say that that person's energy is low, I was just like, whew. Like, okay, it's not just me being harsh, because I can often know that, high energy people, and that's why you and I work really well together, because our energies are so different, so we balance each other really nicely. Yep. But starting with content is first to decide this. Energetically, are you in the right space? When you write the content, when you decide on the content, when you start practicing, did you just have an argument with your spouse? Did your dog just get sick? And. Exactly, Taryn. Send out a survey to family and friends. And when you start planning your content, I go back to this all the time. What is your voice? I mean, someone challenged me just recently because I put some stuff online and they were like, Björn, I don't think that's part of your brand, and I don't think you should be talking about it. And as much as it's relevant to where we are in society, I had a thought afterwards and I was like, actually, it's true. And you know what was the ego knock for me? Was the fact that I was like, no, I got like 56 comments. And then I had to go, so what, 56 comments to destroy your brand? So yeah, your algorithm's great on Facebook, but your brand's gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's answer your question.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
Number one, make sure that your mental health, step number one when you're planning. Number two, make sure that you structure your content that it's about collaboration. That's why I didn't do a lunchtime marketing segment on my own. That's why you didn't do a lunchtime marketing segment on your own. We decided to do it together because it's a conversation and a dialogue. Number three, make sure that you're talking about actual content that people want to hear and listen to. Questions that they might have, that they are worried about, scared about, and. I have met too many people that will literally talk around a point and stuff, and they go, and if you'd like to know more, and you're just like, but you gave me nothing for half an hour. You gave me nothing to work with for an hour, and now you want me to buy more. What am I buying? More of around the point. I can do that on my own. So make sure that you give valuable content, actual information that people want. I don't know if you had it, Kevin, but I've had so many people from our session last week when we spoke about influencer marketing, even yesterday. I had someone say to me, can you redo that again? Can you do a webinar? Because it's on Instagram and they're not on Instagram. And I said, maybe it's a thought process, get onto Instagram. I said, that might be your next step to understand the social media world and become an influencer. And that was my thing. Make sure that you are, in terms of who your target audience is, that you're on the relevant platforms that they can relate to. And so those would be some of my stuff before we start getting into, because every subject's going to be different. I mean, that's like a whole separate conversation altogether, like how to plan from step 1 to step 20 until you go live.
I want to add that I think, from a lot of being online now for the last couple of months, what I'm also realizing is that people don't do enough preparation. So,
yes.
When you do your
can you say that louder, Kev? Can you turn up the volume? Can you just make it louder? Go.
Because, I think even from, I mean, I remember when we first chatted about this, you were saying, okay, so what are you wearing? What are we going to wear? And we had
Yeah.
that conversation because, you know, a lot of people, you go online and some people are like, they're not even dressed. And some people are lying back. Like I've had a webinar with people saying,
Oh,
and people are
I
like,
know.
are we even in the same conversation? You know, so I think part of your structure, and currently, because we are, you know, in the situation and lots going to be happening online, I think the key thing that I've noticed specifically in doing these webinars is make the effort and take the time to set up a proper
Yes,
presentation, create a structure,
absolutely.
get dressed.
Absolutely.
You know, you talk about getting into the mental framework. You know, if there's science that can show us that you cannot go from a happy state and talk like negatively. Like you can't go from a negative state and talk happiness. You know, you really
Yes.
have to get your brain on board with what your body is about to do. And if you're not going to do
Yep.
that, you're going to debilitate yourself. Yeah.
100%. Absolutely. And Kev, you know, it's the reason why, and you know, I don't know about you, but I've done more dishes and I have done more washing in the last couple of months than I
Yes.
think is legally allowed in any household. And the reason is I'm making sure that number one, I've been losing weight, which is great. But I've done that on purpose. So I've made sure that coming out of lockdown, people are not going to be like this. I hear Björn, but where is he? And then they go, oh, hello. That they don't do that. Instead, they'd rather go, oh my gosh, you look amazing. Because
Yeah.
not only does it make sure that I'm eating, so that's why I have more dishes, because I'm eating more healthy, balanced meals instead of skipping stuff. Even if it's a smoothie, that's my rule now. So I make a smoothie in the morning and I pop it in the fridge. So good nutrition. I can think better. I can act better, number one. Number two, it's the other reason why I dress up. So like a friend of mine called me the other day and he was like, you're in a bow tie again? And I said, yes, because if I was going out to see clients, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to dress up. I'm going to make sure, because you act differently. You know, I've seen some stuff, and you must have seen it too. They call it the Zoom jacket or the online meeting jacket, where you can literally be in a t-shirt and it's a fake thing. And, you know, I just think everything about your body language, your message, your communication comes across as fake, because you're like, well, they don't actually know. I'm in my PJs with a
Yeah.
t-shirt and a top. You know, you don't come across as that authentic in your voice. And so that's been a really big thing for me. So I don't know about you. How's your dishes and how's your washing doing?
Yeah, it's driving me up the wall. So I'm trying to avoid it, and that's why when I get dressed in the mornings and I come to work, I come and like I forget about the rest, because if I have
Yeah.
to constantly look at it, it's going to drive me insane. So, you know, just with regards to doing the webinars,
Yeah.
so so I'm a new entrepreneur, or I'm a business person who's not really great with webinars. What are the platforms that I can use? So I want to be able to create a webinar. I know that we use Quicket. Tell us more. How do you link that stuff? How does it work? How does it all fit together?
Got it. Cool. So, Kev, two things. Number one, for everyone that's watching, and obviously people that will watch this recording as we keep going. Number one is that we've decided to use Zoom for many different reasons. If you notice, it's a 30-minute lunchtime session. Important to make note, if you're using Zoom for the first time and you do not have a premium account, you can get 40 minutes free. So you can log on 5 minutes before, and you can get 5 minutes after your session for people to stay on. If you're starting out and you're going, you know what, I just don't have the affordability, what's the platform? Number one. Number two, you can set up a Quicket account. It's exactly what we've done. In the current space, to be self-automated while you keep doing other stuff is what we've done. If you have a look, when you sign up, you'll get the ticket, and we put it in such a nice way that the ticket looks appealing, because you would have seen that there was an image of the invite that you would have seen on the social media post to actually get you involved. And there was a Zoom password and there was a Zoom ID, and it was done like that on purpose. So it's all self-automated. And as we start going into next month, we're now going to start having where we start contacting people regularly and saying, did you know, are you aware, have you seen? And so that we can start getting, not only building a bigger audience for the sake of, oh my gosh, we've got like 1 million people online. That's not the purpose. It's the fact that we can help more people. And so what you want to be able to do is that you want to start self-automating as much as you can, for this reason, to avoid errors, to avoid the, oh, my friend Jane said you sent it to her, but you didn't send it to me. Oh, you know, I was actually going to want to do business with you. But since you didn't bother to, it opens up the whole conversation that wasn't there. So
I want to add, can I quickly add to that automation that you're mentioning? You know what I also find is what people, especially when you're an entrepreneur, when you're running your own business, people get bogged down with busyness. And if we can start canceling out like stuff that I don't have to sit down and go, oh, let me quickly type this and let me send it to that person. If you can find ways to automate anything in your business, it makes such a huge impact. And that's why automation with the webinar is so effective, because you get it up running and click, 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 everything's happening. And you know that stuff like this is easy, quick learning stuff. You can go on YouTube and learn how to do it. It's you know, it's not brain science at all. So I absolutely, I love the fact that we, you know, automation is a huge thing. And I think, you know, the more you can do automated, the better. That sort of gives you more time to focus on the key elements, because then you get to creating your content. You get to creating what it is you're actually busy with. So sorry about that. Carry on. Yeah.
Oh, it's good. It's important. Thanks, Kev. Kev, you know, the other thing that's important about automation is consistency.
Yeah.
And I think of it like this. If Robert Kiyosaki is using automation, if the likes of, I want to kind of bring it local. I can see their brand. It's just left my brain. It will come back to me. Success Resources. There we go. If they can use automation, then thanks, Taryn Bryan. Appreciate it. Thanks, Taryn. Appreciate it so much. Clearly, Taryn's been going to webinars. Well done, Taryn. If they are using it and generating so many people to come through, what makes them different from someone who is a small business? Whether you are a consultant or whether you are a company that is a consultant on behalf of a company, and. So the reality for me is just going, well, it's just a no-brainer. It really just is an absolutely no-brainer. You know, you look professional, and this is the thing. It doesn't matter about the size of your company. It's got to do with the type of performance that you can deliver. And I think of it like this. There's a particular person that I know that does lead generation, and he's very good at it. And we're talking at the moment to see how we can collaborate business-wise. And he has helped businesses grow dramatically. And you know, a lot of what he does is self-automated. Yes, there's a lot of time to set up, absolutely. And then there's monitoring. But it's in the beginning, it's labor intensive, and then he starts generating income and or leads for his clients. He's a one-person in his business. He does it all. He's very good at design, so he doesn't have to outsource that. He could if he wanted to, and he said he might, as he's starting to get even busier now. So I'm just going, well, if big companies are using him, well, why? Because he generates consistency, and he comes across as professional. And that's really important, you know? So, yeah.
There's a question here that's, is an hour long enough for a webinar, or does it depend on the content?
There's two ways to answer that. Number one, it's not only the content, it is who else is involved. This is the thing. If I was going to do a slideshow was teaching you the 10 steps how to set up a webinar from start to finish, an hour might be too short. I might have to do it over an hour and a half, depending on the sector of business. Because if you were talking about food, you might be in like 2 hours and people were just like, they were just salivating looking at the pictures. And they won't realize it because they were having so much fun. But if it's very labor intensive, then yes, an hour is relevant. You know, it's both, there's too much factors that we need to consider. So if they want to elaborate on the question, I'm very happily answer it. But I'd say an hour, yes, subject to.
Yeah, and I think also you need to be aware of, from having webinars and creating content for people to take part in, is also understanding that you've got to take into consideration that they might have questions, so you can thoroughly go through that. But
Yep.
also the people get bored very quickly, so and that's why, I mean, for us with the lunchtime sessions, it's a good 30 minutes, and it's like, cool, thank you. If you want more questions, if you want more time, let's,
Yes.
get hold of us.
100%.
And so I think it's absolutely vital on what your content is and what you're sharing. And if it is longer than 30 minutes, make sure that you have a 5-minute coffee break, or and take into consideration and pay attention to your audience, because I think that's key.
Cool. All right. Kev, I have this question in my head.
Yes.
And I wonder what you think. So I'm sitting with two schools of thought, and I've done planning for both. I'm sitting with, how do we network in the online space as a topic? And there's people that we can bring in for that, number one. And the other part that I'm sitting with is addressing different types of marketing platforms and bringing those people in. So there is, like, whether it's the psychology of marketing, whether it is, let's just like outdoor advertising. Janine, I just wait for Janine's comment. She's just laughing out loud. Whether it's lead generation, whether it's SEO, whether it's Google AdWords. I'm sitting with two schools of thought. Which one do we do? Do we do the online and how to network and bring in all relevant speakers? Or do you think we need to bring in different sectors in terms of marketing as our economy starts opening? What do you think? And do you think we should ask the audience? That's the key.
I definitely think we should ask the audience. Guys, for those who are there and tuned in today, please, what do you think? Should it be option 1 or option 2? I know for me, from option 1, how do we lead generate online? For me personally, I think because I spend a lot of time online and I use LinkedIn quite aggressively. For me, that's a really good topic to chat about. But I also, the flip side of that is, when you understand, I know also, from experience, because I've done a lot of research on what SEOs can do and what AdWords can do, and how to do that better, it's useful knowledge. But I mean, to me, all of it's important. The more we know, the better. So what do you guys think? If you just chat or sort of type into the actual chat. And chat manager, Jay, Janine, Taryn.
Cool. Anthony. So step number 1, the option 1 is, so Jace is both for her. So number 1 is that we're going to do online marketing and how to network in that space. That's number 1. And we're going to have people in. Taryn says both. And then the other one is that we have different topics on, so we call them subject matter experts that will be talking. While you're busy doing that, I'm going to answer Jade's question. Are there recommended times for scheduling a webinar, for example, morning or evening? Jade, great question. And this is the easiest way to answer it. Number 1, who's your target audience? Is your target audience one that is working? So, for example, if you're targeting hairdressers, if you're targeting massage therapists, by classification of where we are right now, they're level 1. So they would be available during the morning. A lot of those people also are often up early because they see early morning clients. So that's a relevancy. If you're trying to target the mass, and then if you just think about it right now, people are going to work really long hours. So for them to say to their boss, well, I've got at 10 o'clock in this morning, I know I'm coming in at 9, but at 10 o'clock, I've got to do this online webinar. They're going to be like, do you want your job or not? So I'd rather than say, go for the evening. And this is the thing. Are you dealing with newborn babies and moms? Then the morning is probably going to be better, because often in that morning time, and I say kind of 10, 11, what happens is that they are organically, the babies would be sleeping. So they'll have a time to actually have a listen. You know what I mean? So I hope that answered your question. If it's not, Jade, you do have my contact details. Happy to chat to you offline. So yeah, so let's have a see what they've said.
Janine's also asking, the webinars is the format of creating business relationships. I know what it is for me.
Cool. Okay. All right. The question is, webinars are a format to create business relationships? Yes, in the context of engaging with, and this is the, let me explain it like this. If it's a general one in the public, you can create the relationship if you ask very valuable questions or if you start stating some very valuable facts, Janine. But if you are using it from the point of just trying to sell your business, unless, and I'll say this, to be honest, unless it's alcohol that you're doing at major discount, so you've got to look at the scarcity factor. Or if you're coming in with hand sanitizer and because you bought in so much bulk that you can create, you can sell a product that is high in demand at a great value price, or a 2-for-1 or a 3-for-2 or something along those lines. If it's not something that people need as essential, you're probably not going to build a relationship. So that's probably more one of those that I know you're aware of, where you need to go, great, let's take this relationship offline, let's follow up with a meeting. So in that context you can, but you really, really got to be adding value. Otherwise people go, they see you as a weird person.
Yeah, and usually webinars is a good platform to really share information and get people intrigued, because after the fact, you want to be able to have that one-on-one and really get them creating that relationship with you so that it becomes a reason for them to come back.
Absolutely. So I just want to look at this as we start wrapping up. So I've had both. Janine, you haven't told us which one you'd like. So step number 1 is, are you wanting the how to network in the online space? And option number 2 is all the different options. Oh, you did. Oh, she did. She's a sad face. She wants both. Okay, cool. So Kevin and I will have a bit of a strat session after this. And then we'll present and we'll show you what we'll then do for June and July so that people can book. And I think, Kev, that will be really great then to be able to have all the stuff booked and people can put it in the diary, content's generated. Let's get the speakers involved. Let's get the bios going. And let's just make it amazing. I don't see, if not, why not? That's my rule.
Absolutely. I think, ideally, if we can jam pack sessions and we can really take away from it and really add some value where some speakers are involved and they really share their points of view and why it would benefit people, I think that's going to be fantastic. So thank you guys. Thank you for joining us. Lastly, Björn, tell us where we can get hold of you.
Awesome. So the easiest way on social media platforms at Björn Salasoni, so BJRN SALSONE, and then also with our business is www.tnc-marketing.co.za, and my email is bjorn@tnc-marketing.co.za. And otherwise, you can find us on social media with the handle @TNC-marketing.za. So that's it. And where do we find you, Kev?
So best would be my website, www.businessbydesign.co.za, or alternatively on all social medias, Kevin Brits or Business by Design SA at Business by Design on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and all that.
Happy days. Fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next week. We'll see you next week, Thursday, and we'll inform everybody on where we're going, what we're doing, and what it's going to be about. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Chat to you later.
Bye.
Ciao.